Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host Shane Lockwood and this is episode 40. Today is January 4th, 2015. Where has the year gone? 4 days in already people. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year 2015. What resolutions did you make? And what resolutions did you break? There's a song in that, folks. So which resolutions did you make and which resolutions did you break? I didn't make any because I see the resolutions as more of a maintenance list for both my home and myself, whether it's to lose weight or to fix the screen door or the myriad of other things that need to be fixed and whatnot around the house. Plus goals and dreams and things that I'd like to accomplish throughout the year, like international travel and so on and so forth. But we'll see where we go in the future. I want to say thank you to people who listen to this show each and every week, especially to those who are listening through this on iHeartRadio. There are people listening to this every single day on iHeartRadio, which is absolutely fantastic. And to those who are listening to this on SoundCloud. I'd neglected SoundCloud because I'd ran out of storage space and it meant deleting older episodes. So I want to send a shout out to Ryan, who is listening through SoundCloud. Please do come over and re-follow me on Spreaker, because you'll get all the shows. Or you just listen through YouTube and you'll get the entire archive of episodes, and you'll never miss a single one. SoundCloud, I can only upload a total of 3 episodes, so that becomes really hard. That means I have to delete episodes and things like that. And it's just a pain in the bum. So I'm getting to the point where I need to pay for storage. So that's going to be a pain in the bum, and it's something that I need to look at, because there are multi-part episodes that I don't want to delete from Spreaker or SoundCloud and things like that. So, because I want everybody to be able to access them. If you click on one, you think, oh, this is a 4-part series, I want to listen to all 4 parts. Okay. That's why if you go through the YouTube channel, the playlist, you will never miss an episode. All the episodes are all stored on YouTube, regardless of what happens to the Spreaker account or whatever happens to episodes, whether I delete them for space or not. Now, what I've decided to do is set up a Patreon account. Now, it's completely voluntary, and I realise there's a lot of backlash over people asking for financial support online, and while I understand where that comes from, I can see that if you are going to be producing a lot of material, you're going to be running up a lot of costs. The internet is not free, people. It really isn't. You pay to upload YouTube videos. I mean, you don't pay for that, but you pay for internet access and things like that. But YouTube and Google wear that cost, and so does Spreaker and Stitcher and all these other these companies. They are basically having to pay for the bandwidth, which is why they have advertising on their websites, right? Because that's to try and counteract some of the cost of maintaining servers and electricity and all the rest of it. So, like I said, I set up a Patreon account. It's completely voluntary. Any money spent will go towards exclusive podcasts, exclusive videos, and things like that for Patreon supporters. So the link to that will be at patreon.com/ELASM, Easy Like a Sunday Morn. And so it's easy to remember. So it's ELASM. Once you go to the Patreon, the link should be in the show notes. I'll have to check on iHeartRadio whether the show notes are coming up. Let's see. So, thank you for tuning in once again. Thank you for following what's been going on in my life. And it's amazing sometimes when you upload material, the person involved in doing this sort of stuff forgets what they upload, what you're saying. You forget about it because you're saying stuff and you get stuff off your chest and it's not really an issue. For example, I've got a list of bills that I have to pay. I have to start this year paying about $500 worth of bills, and I only get like $400 every 2 weeks, so I'm not made of money. So those sorts of things can be a pain in the bottom, but I'm talking about it now, but once I've paid the bills and I get paid again, then it's not really an issue. But what happens is people will actually memorise the things that I've said and they'll quote it back to me, word for word, sometimes 6 months later. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that, you were talking about this and this girl did this and that, and you didn't like this and you didn't like that, and this is what happened, and the ins and outs of it all, and you think, geez. But this is the problem. I think sometimes people can judge you by what happened in your life 6 months ago, and you know as well as I do that you can change in 6 months. The government seems to think that that's the case as well. They seem to think that you can be cured of a disability or a mental illness within 2 years or something like that. They're very strange like that. But yeah, last year was pretty much the worst year of my life, so I'm grateful that you guys stuck around. I know that a lot of people, they stopped watching my YouTube videos, and I think largely because I was bouncing this podcast to the YouTube channel, and the majority of the videos are this podcast now. I do have to do more videos. I just have been either flat out working or looking for work, or I've just become apathetic. I lost the camera. Not lost the camera, it just died. So I had to switch to a lower quality, older camera that I had until I can get funding for another camera. But that's all in the Patreon stuff as well. But once again, that's voluntary. This podcast will always be free. If you do want an extra half an hour, once a month, then I'm going to have to charge for that, because I need to store it somewhere. And I like to have the podcasts up, even though they're transitory. I like to have them up so that everybody gets a chance to listen to them. Now, I want to thank everybody who listened to the podcast a few weeks ago. It was a rather difficult podcast for me to do because of the subject matter. I did that podcast about 20 times a few weeks ago, over several weeks. I just could not bring myself to say what was on the podcast because it was just very, very controversial. I looked like the bad guy because of the subject matter was so bad. Yeah, it's one of those things, you start pointing fingers at people and people think, wow, so why are you accusing this person of X, Y, Z? But yeah, that's what happens. So this last year was one of the worst years of my life, with a few exceptions of there being me graduating from university and becoming an alumni of Uni SA, and also getting a rather large tax return, and I've managed to keep a third of that, with the exception of the rather large bills that I'm going to have to pay very, very shortly. I'll pay them tomorrow, actually. Did I thank Ryan for listening on SoundCloud? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I can't remember. I'm just moving forward. I've got very, very little in the way of notes, but those of you who follow this podcast regularly will know that the point of this podcast is to just sort of switch off and to relax and to listen to me, to my voice, my dulcet tones, and maybe just relax a bit. Maybe not listening to this while you're driving, obviously, but if you just need 30 minutes to just tune out, to zone out, just to have something in the background to break the silence, to help you clean the fish tank, or maybe you need to time yourself to spend 30 minutes on an exercise machine or something like that. Play the podcast, play any podcast, and this will help you do it. I wanted to highlight that a few people wanted to be on the show, to be on the podcast, but they were either too shy, or for some reason they got the idea that I was being exclusive and I was excluding people. No. What was happening was that my computer, the fan on the CPU was excessively loud. Now I've cleaned it up and it seems to have lessened a little bit, but I'll have to think of another way of recording a Skype call. I'll have to look at seeing if I can put Skype on the Chromebook, and we'll just record a normal Skype call as I normally would and save the show that way. So if you're listening to this and you did want to be on the show, send me a tweet on Twitter, or send me an email. On Twitter, it's at SHAIDO, Shido, or on email is Shane_Lockwood@hotmail.com. If you know me on Facebook, just send me a message, just PM me whenever you want to. I just have to get a lot of this New Year stuff out of the way. I've got to go and see my doctor again, get some paperwork signed for the government, which is a pain because I haven't seen my doctor in a while, and I really don't want to go back there. I just want to see a new GP and start again. And the idea in my mind is to avoid doctors where possible. Obviously, the annual checkup, and especially if you're over 40, guys, get the prostate checked and stuff like that. We want to get people free from cancers and all sorts of stuff like that. Do your screenings and whatnot. Look, seriously, it's a 2-minute test, and the guy just sticks his fingers up your bum, and yes, no, and if you got like prostate cancer or not. So do get along for that. But I had to leave my previous doctor because she didn't know how to read a heart monitor properly, and I just went, oh, this is not good. So I just avoided doctors, avoided medication. I didn't really need it for the conditions that I had. But if you want to talk about anything, you can talk about anything on the show, do let me know. So you are more than welcome. The person that asked me if he could be on the show, yes, by all means. We just got to organise a time when we can talk. The problem is, then do we how do I condense the interview down to 20 minutes per show? I did an interview with Raggy that was over a couple of hours, and I edited that, not very well, mind you, but I edited it down to, I think, 4 half-an-hour shows. So I cut a lot of stuff out. I cut a lot of me umming and ahhing and just asking stupid questions and whatnot. So I just gave Raggy like a platform to talk. And if we want to do another depression special, or another talk about, I don't know, Korra or the Last Avatar, then we can do that. We can absolutely do that. The other issue that I've had recently is that my fridge, the compressor on my fridge is turning on and it seems to be, because I've been talking for about 15 minutes, so it seems to be, and it's just switched on, so it seems to be every half an hour or so. So yes, I'm not too happy about that, and I don't know what to do about it. I've asked online, I've looked online, and I'm none the wiser. I've even asked a friend of mine who's an air conditioner mechanic, and he sometimes fixes fridges and stuff as well. And he's trying to say, "Oh, you're just imagining it," and I'm thinking, "Hang on, you're supposed to be a professional," and this is the attitude that I'm getting. But anyway, what I've been doing lately is spending a lot of time playing what's known as rogue-like games, and these are games that are made by independent game developers that are nowhere near the AAA quality games, like the big name games with all the $1 billion advertising campaigns and things like that. So these are rogue-like games, and some of them are really, really good. One of them, like I said, I think last week, which was still in the alpha stage of development, was one called RimWorld, RimWorld, and it's basically sort of like The Sims, but it's a 2D adventure thing of these. You pick 3 characters with you pick their personality traits, and they crash land on a planet in a survival situation. You get to pick where you land, of course, the terrain, and depending on the level of resources that you have to survive. You have to build shelter, survive, and you end up inventing things, and then eventually building a spaceship and leaving the planet. Now, I haven't actually managed to build a spaceship just yet, but I'm really, really enjoying the game so far. I haven't had too many bugs, so we'll see what happens as the game progresses further along the track. Another game that I've been playing, very different. See, RimWorld is sort of space age, but it's set in a world where different planets have different technology levels. Whereas the next game that I'm talking about is called Neo Scavenger, and it's set in a post-apocalyptic world where the idea is you have to survive as long as possible. But a lot of these games, they have what's known as permanent death, or real death, or permadeath, and the idea of the game is, while you're trying to survive as long as possible, you also have the added thrill of trying to die in the most stunning and spectacular way possible. So for Neo Scavenger, the idea is that you wake up in a cryogenic chamber and there's a dogman at the door. So you've got to use whichever attributes that you've chosen for your character, whether it's strength, melee, mechanic, electrician, botany, etc. Whichever format attributes you have chosen will give you different options as to how to take care of this dogman, and then you proceed on your way outside to this post-apocalyptic world with dogs and hunters and looters ravaging around. So you start off wearing nothing but a hospital gown and a name tag, and you have to run around finding clothing. Oh, and the oxygen level, the air is really bad, so you have to find rags and things to use as an air filter. You wrap it around your head, you have to breathe through the rags. But you've got individual areas of your body that can be damaged and things like that, which adds to the thing of the spectacular death. So you can be crippled, you can have broken arms and legs and things like that, you can bleed out, you can, all these sorts of things, but then you can find medical kits, you can heal yourself, there's painkillers that can solve the pain problem, but they only last for a little bit. Then you've got the added thing of having to find food and water, and really basically you're scavenging for your life. You're making makeshift weapons out of tree branches, and sometimes you'll find a gun or a cigarette lighter with which to make a campfire and cook food and meat. Find berries and things. If you've got a botany skill, your botany skill will determine whether you will understand whether berries are poison or not, because it'll tell you. And if you don't have any medical skill, then you won't get a health meter and little things like that. There's a whole heap of options. But when you die, and invariably you will die, you cannot restore a save game, and because it's permanent death. Once that character is dead, the character is dead. You have to start again from scratch, and you can die from. You're given like a list of what caused you to die, whether it's starvation, whether it's you bled out, or whether you were attacked and killed by one of the bad guys in the game. I think it's set in Michigan as well, and the idea is you have to get from Michigan to Detroit, I think. Yeah. And I don't know a lot about US geography to point out where that is or how far that is. But you're walking on foot. I have found a shopping trolley, and I've found in other games I've found parts to make a shopping trolley, things like that. So depending on like your mechanical skill as to what you can do and what you can't do. But it's very, very interesting, and that's a full game and it's fully released. It's not in the alpha stage. But what was the other one? The other one was, this is not a permanent death one. Actually it is. It's called Hotline Miami, and there's a sequel to it as well. Hotline Miami is very much like the very first Grand Theft Auto game, and this is basically, I can't remember the plot. Basically, you're just a guy who runs around killing people indiscriminately with whatever weapons happen to be there at the time. And it gets increasingly harder and harder and harder. But I think you can save in that game as well. Yes. A lot of people died in 2014. A lot of people were caught doing things that they shouldn't have been doing in 2014. And a lot of my childhood heroes are no longer heroes, unfortunately, because of their actions. A lot of my childhood heroes have passed away because of illnesses or their own actions, which is unfortunate, and I hope that 2015 does get a lot better for a lot of you listeners. Once again, thank you for tuning in for so many episodes and letting me ramble and rant and rave and things like that. Let's see, I've got about 5 minutes. I may have mentioned this last week. I debunked a lady on Facebook who, I can't remember her name. Her name's Robin something or other. Anyway, she posted a video of her at a conference somewhere where she was talking about how genetically modified foods cause autism and that sort of stuff. You just think, geez, people, do you know anything about science? Okay, you just need a basic understanding of chemistry, and you know that it's fake. Basically, to explain it very, very basically, a GMO is a genetically modified organism, right? Genetically modified. So they're modifying the genes. So you've got natural selection or artificial selection, where humans decide, okay, we want to breed various forms of, say, corn, for example, to get a desired effect. Then you've got genetic manipulation, where you go into the genes. Now, what are genes? Genes are DNA. What is DNA? DNA is a form of acid. It's an amino acid. It's one of the building blocks of life. So what scientists do, they find a sequence, a genetic sequence, which is basically a string of amino acids that do a certain task. Whether it has like a certain amount of information. So it might be bioluminescence, it might be just telling a carrot to be orange, for example. It might be might have height, weight information, telling people to have blue eyes or brown eyes or dark skin or whatever. That's the information that's locked up these amino acids and genes. What scientists have done is isolated those genes and said, okay, this gene does X. So they take this gene and they inject it into, or not inject, they try and infuse it into the ovum or the embryo. Not embryos, it's in the ovum of the plant or whatever it is that they're trying to combine. It's a very risky and expensive process, and it's like a 1 in 100 chance of it actually even working in the first place. Very, very expensive. And so therefore you will get a salmon that grows twice as big, because it's got the amino acids in and the DNA, basically the genes that tell the fish, you don't have to stop growing at this point, you can grow a little bit bigger, you can be slightly different color or whatever, right? This is just genetic manipulation, and it's been around for about 20 years. There's been no fatalities, no diseases or anything like that. So that's what GMOs are. Anyway, this woman was saying that they cause autism, they cause this, they cause that. And people are sharing it on Facebook. So what I decided to do was, what will happen if I just Google this woman's name and put the word debunked after it? And sure enough, there's people wanting to contact me on Facebook, but I'm not going to answer them yet. And I basically, like, her face came up for an article that in the Skeptic Dictionary, because she was making all sorts of claims back in 2008 about other things causing autism, whatever the fear-mongering thing had to be at the time. But instead of arguing with my friends and losing my friends over a particular issue, I just decided to leave it. If people are going to be upset and unfriend me over things like that, then how shallow are people? I'm guessing this is Gero sending me messages. Anyway, I'm up to 29 minutes. I will cut this short. Please tweet me at SHAIDO or join the Facebook group, etc., etc. And the moment that everybody has been waiting for is the code word, which lets me know that you've been listening for the entire show. Let's see. The code word is crisis. 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 And yeah, that's the code word. So thank you for listening once again. I'm getting messages all over the place. And thanks for tuning in each and every week. And I will see you again next week. That's all from me today. Look after yourselves. Bye for now. And may the rest of today and the rest of the week be easy like a Sunday morn. Bye.